Oh, hello there, Sam here, and Real Love Guitars, and we're working on, right now we're working on Clives Ovation, and it's interesting, this old Ovation it's kind of run out of adjustability really, so it's coming near that point where all the authorities in the world agree that it's probably heading for a neck reset, but the problem with that is that by all accounts it's such a complex undertaking that it doesn't really make economic sense to do it, which is a shame because it's a beautiful finish, as you can see, but there's a little bit of bellying on the guitar top, and that sort of consequently lifts the bridge. Good. Lifts the bridge just a fraction, and so I've taken out the last of the shims under there, and it's a custom, kind of a custom built doofer. Custom built saddle, and so it's one of those things that you could, if you were going to keep the guitar forever, you could recut that saddle, but it has to be either taken apart, dismantled completely, or done from the top, reshaped from the top, which is doable because the intonation or the compensation pattern isn't very complicated, but you need to obviously map it across the thing, and because you can't really take the unit apart and do it, and even if you could, the underside of it is castellated, like square notchy thing to sit onto the little piezo unit, which is a nice, probably good for the sound part of it, but not so good for anybody wanting to make an adjustment to it. Anyway, so what I'm doing is I've made a little bit of an action adjustment at that end, courtesy of the removable shim, and we're just going to take down the nut to give a clearance of 0.3 over the first fret, which will make the guitar a lot easier to play, certainly at this end, which will give it another couple of years comfortable playing life, I suppose, for chords. Never going to be great for playing bar chords at that end, but it's just the way it is. All the research I've done on these Ovations is that while people love them, they don't. A general consensus seems to be that once they get to a certain age, that they don't become economical to go through the neck reset business. And I don't know this for sure, just picking up on what I've read in the world of enthusiast fora. But the problem is, even people have said down to the level of the neck joint being done with a certain kind of brittle glue which doesn't come off easily, and allegedly has to be broken to get it off, which then means you have to kind of reface the whole guitar in order to reset the neck, or you have to reface the joint completely, which is a mega hassle. I've also made a small but perfectly formed adjustment underneath. This is quite deep now on the nut, so I've got to be careful. I've made an adjustment to the truss rod so that it's not too bad, so that it's taken a little bit of the action out of the curve. There's quite a lot of relief in there, but also we're going to put some lighter gauge strings on, which should kind of cure or reduce the curvature a little bit. Okay, that's good. Close to. Now we're on a 52. We need 52. Actually, we need more than 52. So let's check the larger gauge one on this. It's a combination of using the welding nozzle files, which are quite handy if you don't have the bigger size things. That's 60, which is a bit no, it's not too big, it's not ultimately too big. This is 52.5, it's too close to the right size, so let's go on the 60 side, unless, sorry, dingle dangle, unless there's another one in here that just instantly jumps out and says use me. 51.5. Is that the heaviest one on this? I think it is. Yeah, 47. And there's a little set here that I bought a little while back. Ching! Blimey, what's this? I think that's going to be two. Well, there's a few here. Not that easy to use. Looking for something above the 50, 55 there. Yeah, let's have a look at that. A bit difficult to manipulate. Let's put that one off to one side. Okay, so now, yeah, so I'll start with I'll use the 46, sorry, the 48 to begin with. Now, this is currently set to 1mm. That's good, that's taken a lot of the curvature out actually. This is currently a 1mm action, the first fret, which is just way and above too high, so I'm going to try and go down on it. Or should I say work my way down? Loads of room. Let's try this. I think there's not a lot of... Oh, that's how I'm supposed to use it. Okay. Not a very effective cutter, although not bad if it's all you've got. It could take quite some time to get there. They do cut eventually, but ideally you want something else to go with. I do have some bass guitar ones here which probably have a much better, I don't know if there are any larger ones. Whoa, hey, ooh. No, that's too small, and that one is also too small. So even the biggest one here doesn't quite match up, but we can use it to cut a bit of the stuff out of the way. It's a good cutter. Let's put it that way. So the thing is, if you're using these type of things like this, is you have to be careful to, if you cut down a bit with a smaller size, you've got to be quite disciplined and follow through with this rounded, whatever you call it, welding nozzle cleaner, because you need to make sure that the string goes all the way to the bottom of the slot. Otherwise, you could be in a sort of false sense of security. You think you've cut it down far enough, or you think you've still got some ways to go, and in fact you might have overcut it already. So I can see fresh air under there still. So what are we, 48 to 50, 60. I'll use 48 for a bit of cutting power. So when in my ebook that talks about, or shows a complete electric guitar setup and an acoustic guitar setup, in both cases I show how to do this job using a very inexpensive jeweler's file, triangular file, and because it's very effective in creating a quick cut. The only downside is you get a V slot out of it, which potentially could end up just gripping the strings a bit, which you obviously don't want. So one of the recommendations is to have a set of these welding nozzle cleany things, and they're very inexpensive, but they're great for this part here, which is bottoming out the slot. So you can, if I'm using a slightly square-edged file there to do the heavy cutting work, but let's imagine we'd used the triangular file, and this bit here now just follows on and rounds that off, so there's little or no chance of it catching or pinching at the bottom of the slot. Now I think we're quite close to it there. I'm going to stop at that. It's a little over, but I feel. Don't worry about that being out of tune. Actually, it could do with it being in tune, roughly. Change the strings out anyway, so I think that will do on the white welding nozzle cleaners. Make sure I put as many back as we can. They tend to spring out and then disappear. So now we're onto the finer strings. We're still working on the same 0.3 of a millimeter action. These slots on this are quite deep, so it might be worthwhile making sure that they maybe get a bit of a triangle file here, because what I don't want is because it's got to go down quite a way, I don't want a very deep trench on this thing with the string kind of catching. Even if you use the exact same gauge, which I'm not, I'm using a larger gauge, even using the exact same gauge, what you can often get is, because the nut has a certain width that way, what you think is a straight line cut actually can have a little tilt or a wiggle, and it's very easy for the string to get caught up in that, even when you've used the same or slightly larger a gauge. So and the last thing you want, the deeper it goes, the more likely you're going to get it caught. So unless I'm just going to keep an eye on this, and if it feels like it's even anywhere near pinching the string, then I'm going to use this file here like this, and just to basically just open up the slot a tiny bit. That doesn't need much, just turns it into a slight V. Now obviously I don't go far with it, I just go enough to free up the string from binding, and then I can continue with the correct file. And then again, if it starts to feel like it's at the bottom of the slot and binding again, then I would continue to just widen it slightly with the V. It cuts nicely, it's a good quality bone nut in there. A bit of a vintage one, but it's doing its job. That's starting to feel like it's grabbing, so I'm just going to, again, all I'm doing is opening that slot so that we avoid binding. So once I've done this, I'm going to give the guitar sort of a quick clean over and an oil, because this is going to be a sort of light setup, which I often will do on an acoustic like this if the alternative is some quite sort of long-winded adjustments to the saddle. But getting close there, a little bit more. So yeah, this would be, we're going to make the transformation at this end feel quite different to play. It'll feel yeah, very different. There we go, stop on there. Combination of three things, I suppose, with the lighter gauge strings, the change in the neck curve, the lowering of the action here, it's going to make it feel very nice by comparison to what it was. But we're still kind of stuck with the basic issue of this guitar, which is is the sort of heading towards the neck reset. So you can see I'm just cutting the slot straight away there before I even get started with the 17, just because it's already quite a deep slot, and I just don't want these strings to end up getting caught. Funny enough, one of the good things about these nut files is when you use them a lot, they can get, not blunt exactly, but I suppose they do. Eventually they get blunt on the area you use, which tends to be this end here. And accidentally sometimes they break, and actually what it gives me is a new end. So a way to extend the life of these things is to be prepared at some point to break them off or hacksaw them off an inch from the end. It gives you a sort of new surface to work with, which pretty much it will double the life of them, because otherwise it just doesn't get used, that section. Funnily enough, there's a sort of dead flat bit there for you to theoretically hold the slot, hold the files, but you can't get them to work like that, so nobody does. Okay, so it's been a busy old one today. We've been working on 3 guitars already. Malcolm's Fret King, Clives Ovation. I've been doing some tweaks on Russ's Oakcaster number 12, which came back in because it had an accident on the bench before he actually bought it, which he knew about, and but actually, unbeknownst to me, the impact had caused the fingerboard to just start to separate in one part of the neck. So I've ordered a new neck. I'm replacing it and making it basically the same neck as before. But I've also fixed the original in case I don't get the new ones in before he needs it for his next international jaunt. And I'm also going to just slightly change the wiring on it, so it's, instead of 2 independent volume controls with coil splits, it's going to have master volume, master tone, and coil splits. And this time they're going to be push click, if you know what I mean, rather than pull. The push ones just seem they're more nicer to use, basically. Okay, well, I'm getting close to where I want to be with this, so I'm going to just do a tiny bit more on this one and then shift. Yeah, so and also in the house I've taken delivery today of Uwe's all the way from Germany, Uwe. Don't know how to pronounce your name, sir, but somebody will tell me. Uwe's Baker Les Paul copy for a reloved spruce up, which I'm looking forward to. I haven't even got it out of its case yet. I haven't had time to look at it yet, but no doubt I'll get that on video later on. Okay, just a little bit of a opening up of this slot as well here. I mean, this is a classic example. You know, there's no reason why a first fret action needs to be, or even should be, anywhere near 1.2 millimeters or something. It's just so high. I mean, I've got, obviously it's my guitar, I've set it really low, but it's way up into the 1.2 is way up into the zone of intonation problems. But not only that, even if you're using kind of really heavy duty strings or something and you don't notice the intonation problem, it just makes the thing incredibly tiring to play. So getting this bit lightened up just makes one heck of a difference to how the guitar plays. It's one of the biggest improvements you can make. This is taking a while to cut, so I'm just going to open it up a little bit more. Won't be far off now, and just in case of nice clean up and string change. Never really played one of these Ovations for any length of time. think a lot of people came to dislike, maybe it's a Marmite thing, but I know a lot of people I've talked to in the past have disliked the bowl back thing. You know, it was all the rage kind of aesthetically. I know maybe 70s and 80s, you know, you were nobody if you didn't have a bowled back Ovation, but they're cool for standing up on stage, but I don't think they don't work very well for sitting down and playing. So we're almost there. Now this is where this one's getting a bit sort of tired, this blade. So I have to be careful not to over stress, because sometimes if it doesn't cut very well, you find yourself putting a bit more elbow grease into it, and then before you know it, you've gone way over the mark. So it's almost like more gentle, more gentler. We are almost there, just looking at the little shadows, reflections. Almost there. And this is you know, a couple of thou above the actual size that it needs to be. So let's have a tweak. It's got a built-in tuner, but I prefer to do this just quickly. It's better than it was. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove these old strings and we'll go straight on to fitting the new ones, if I can find my string unwinder. After which, once I'm happy that they're good, then after that I'll put on the little back cover again. We also give the neck a clean and a little bit of oil and blow away this bone dust here. See, there's the thing about the bowl, it kind of rocks around on the bench as well, which is disconcerting. So these, by the looks of these, were nano webs, you know, good quality string, previously fitted. We're going now with Ernie Ball Earthwood acoustic strings, bronze alloy. I've not really seen those before, so probably a safer bet these days. I think I've said before in the videos that I've already bought too many Duff fake elixirs, almost too many to make, certainly to make buying them online worth doing anymore. And it really seems to be an example where actually going to the shop for your elixirs makes very good sense, because actually you can't seem to depend on them otherwise. And I think, you know, for a set of strings that costs at least £10, there's clearly a good market in fakes. You know, if you can get a 50p set of strings and repackage them naughtily as £10 elixirs or something with some bit of fake packaging, you're on a winner really. So sadly I seem to have had a few sets of those one after another, and it was just totally depressing because they you know, you put them on and they've got rust spots and stuff already. It's just horrible. I mean, they're not the worst, but they're certainly not what they should be, and certainly not worth the money. So okay, so short of putting on some new strings, a quick recoiling. It's got a beautiful finish, this guitar, and I'm hoping that with these new strings it'll play and sound really nicely. But it's I think, you know, getting the nut, improving the nut action is a good lowish cost way of you know, making an immediate playing improvement in a guitar like this. But the truth is that it seems that acoustic guitars, when they reach that certain age, unless they're high sentimental value and or cash value, then you really, I don't think almost none of them of the sort of medium price range or medium to budget price range, almost none of them make any sense to spend the kind of money you'd have to spend to do a full neck reset. It's just too much. We're talking, you know, hundreds of pounds, judging by the amount of time it would take. I've not done one, and I've said before on video that I certainly wouldn't attempt one until or unless I'd you know, gone all out to learn about it. But nice brown packaging. Ooh, I like these. They've got a nice feel to them. Yeah, so it's but from what I've read, you know, it appears to be a sort of major job. Like I say, only makes any sense to the high financial or sentimental value guitar. But this is so pretty. I would for a new owner, I know that Clive's looking to sell this one, I think, but I would certainly recommend to a new owner, rather than spend a fortune trying to get the neck reset, get a couple more years of life out of it with by reshaping the top of this saddle. And there's actually plenty of downward motion, downward space to move, so you could get another 2 or 3 millimeters out of it. And you know, that would represent several more years of playing, because the movement of the top isn't going to be get the right way around. Movement of the top isn't going to be proceeding at lightning speed. It's glacial, I suppose you could say. These feel nice. They're like the silk and steel. It's not silk and steel, but you have a bit of that feel. Phosphor bronze. Right, now again, the whole thing about this doing a re-string is to make sure, once we've got them strings on, is to make sure that they're stretched out fully, so that the guitar plays nicely in tune from the off. And you know, contributing to that is to make sure there's not too much wound on. So I tend to pull back just 1 fret's worth. It gives me a wind over and a wind under the loose string, or the spare string. Tends to hold really well, and is a sort of minimum amount of windings on the post, or as the Americans would say, the peg. I still can't get my head around calling this a peg head. It doesn't work for me. I'm sure a lot of people from the UK probably feel the same. Peg head. Sounds a bit like an insult. Backwards, which is always a bit more fiddly, less satisfying than doing an inline strap series of strings, because we sort of have to prop it up, hold it with the thumb, and get it going the right way. Over please, not under, over. So all the way it's a kind of finger gymnastics to keep the thing roughly under tension, so you can guide the string where you want it to go and keep it tidy. Okay. It's got a kink in it, that one. I don't know why, but part of the deal. It seems to be quite difficult to get a flawless set of strings these days. I don't know why. I mean, a minor flaw like that, it's okay, it stretches and pulls straight anyway at the end of it all, by the time it's under load, but... Okay. It was difficult making any adjustment on the truss rod because somebody in the past has, I think, ground it down, maybe using the wrong things or too smaller, too smaller thing, so it's not a perfect grip under there. It was enough to reduce the rather high relief, which I think was over 1 millimetre. So again, that was way too curved for my liking, or more than it needs to be. Okay, we are all good there. Let's get the finer cutters. Those. And chop this excess pretty bronze things off. Right then. It's supposed to be sunny out there. What's going on? Okay, there's a little bit of a sort of obvious first stretch. I much prefer this through stringing to the little plastic plugs. They're like just asking for trouble, really. Okay, go with an A. Now, normally I would be stretching the living daylights out of these strings, but the problem is it's quite difficult, or you have to be careful doing that when I don't have any replacement strings of the same brand or gauge, because you can't really afford to snap that top E, so I might leave this partly to kind of stretch out by playing it a little bit. Tuning's fine, no grabbing strings, nothing sticking. Progressive and smooth, which is good. Which means that once we've ironed out the excess slack, we'll get stable tuning. It's not bad, it's quite nice in fact. Nicer than I thought it was going to be. This will be the last I stretch these now. I'll tune it one more time and then we'll take it indoors and let it settle a bit and come back and tune it later. Okay. strap out for the purpose of, I'm not sure why I brought the strap, was to try it out with its fabulous bowl-backed potential. Let's see what it feels like. See what it feels like. Feel what it feels like. Yeah, it's going to be lighter than that 10-pound monster hanging up there, that's for sure. Ooh, the bowl. It torments me. Not a very long strap anyway, but ooh. Is it through the thingy thing? Which might as well. Before I put the back on. No, I don't think I've ever played a wired up thingy, Ovation. There's the thing, there is the thing. You can see it, but I can't. Make sure everything's still attached. Tune off in equal. Oh, equal. Volume, bass, mid, treble. Too high for my liking, but pre-shape. For playing chords on stage, I guess. Okay, anyway, there we are. That is Clives slightly out of tune Ovation, as good as it will be in the condition it's in. So there we go, lower action down here at the first fret. By the way, proof that you can hear intonation, you don't need a tuner to do it. Slightly high, that one. Sharp, I mean. It's the only one. All the rest are spot on, but nothing we can do about that. So there you go. Thanks for sticking with me on this one. I'm going to find this thing and put the thing on the back thing, and we're done. And there you go. Clives Ovation thing with a beautiful front. Absolutely gorgeous book-matched front top. But suffering from age a little bit, but nonetheless I would say for a few more years that's a very nice, cool, rhythm guitar for stage work, and for a new owner who wanted to cut down on the nut, that would be completely doable. Okay, I'm going to tidy up and put it back on. See you soon.